Hello everyone, my name is Rosie Rangel. I'm going to be presenting Love Without Borders. This piece is really special to me for a lot of reasons. A week and a half ago was actually my dad's 27th death anniversary. Um, we every year when I have a birthday, it's followed by his death anniversary since I was actually only 4 months old when he passed away. So I tend to think a lot about him and during this time of the year. So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about my mom. So my mom, like you may have now noticed, is basically my driving force. She is the one person in my life who has always been there, no matter what. She's encouraged me to be the best that I can be, and even that is an understatement. She is the epitome of a strong human being. Her faith has helped her literally conquer borders and boundaries. She's just such an inspiration, and I felt like I kind of owed this to her. I It's kind of hard sometimes when you don't like to think about something to write it down, but I feel like it's a sort of therapy almost to kind of get the thoughts out, and and then you don't have to be going through them in your head. So after saying all of that, I just want to read my piece. Okay, so Love Without Borders. When I was little, my mom told me the story of how my dad and she had met and fell in love. It was the winter of 1986, and my grandmother had just passed away from leukemia. My mother was all alone and decided it was time to take the chance to cross to el otro lado. That's what we in Mexico call the United States. We refer to it as el otro lado, the other side. My mother was all alone and decided it was time to take chance to cross to el otro lado and begin her life. At the time my mom was 32 years old. She had stayed caring for my sick grandmother during the last decade of her life. So usually in the Mexican culture, not always, um, the the youngest sibling usually for stays to take care of the parents, and that's exactly what my mom did. It's not something that you see regularly, but it does happen. My grandma um, got leukemia, and it wasn't a really it wasn't a really fast process, so it kind of just like killed her slowly. So my mom basically had to put her life on hold for a decade to care for her mom. She doesn't see it that way though. So at the time my mom was 32 years old. She had stayed caring for my sick grandmother during the last decade alive. After my grandmother passed away, my mom wasn't sure what to do with her life. It wasn't uncommon during the late 80s for groups of people to pass into el otro lado. She decided it was time to move on. She wasn't sure how she was going to cross, but was determined. My uncle, who had been in the US since the late 70s, told my mom she could cross with him. This was it. It was the opportunity my mom had been waiting for. She prepared to leave life as she had known it. She gathered the few belongings she would take and took a bus to the border. Um, the reason my mom actually decided to do this was because my grandfather remarried a year after my grandma passed away, and my mom was devastated. It completely destroyed her to think that her dad didn't respect her mom's memory longer than he should have. And I mean, he was a really special and nice man, but it just hit her really hard, being her having been there for her mom, him not have given that. So that's why she took a dramatic change in her life. So she remembers it being a very cold night, and feeling the deepest sense of sadness she had felt since the passing of my grandmother. She wasn't only saying goodbye to her country, she was saying goodbye to her mother, her language, her community, and her family. So many thoughts running through her mind on her way to the border. The bus pulled into Ciudad Juarez, one of the ugliest cities across the border, filled with filth and stench. And that's exactly how it still is today. The sight of this horrible city made her question the decision she had made, but finally arrived at the hotel where my uncle was staying. She knocked on the door and a handsome man opened the door. She was suddenly flustered, thinking she had arrived at the wrong address, but was immensely relieved when she heard my uncle's voice calling her name from within the room. The man invited her into the man invited her into the wrong, and she suddenly remembered how gorgeous he was. He invited her inside, and she suddenly remembered how gorgeous he was. My mother has always been very conservative and shy, so she didn't lead on that she thought he was gorgeous. They stayed in that hotel room for a week, waiting to get the okay to go across the border. And when I say my mom is shy and conservative, is an understatement also. She is completely 110% shy and conservative. So the fact that she was staying in a hotel room for a week with a man that she thought was absolutely gorgeous and my uncle was the one of the worst experiences she's ever had. They stayed in that hotel room for a week, waiting to get the okay to cross. Saying it was a long week is an understatement. They received a call and were given the okay. So they went to an abandoned warehouse where they met everyone else that would be crossing. Everyone was gathered into a tight corner trying to keep what little warmth there was alive. The handsome man got up and started telling the people what was going to happen and how they should react if things went south. Little did my mom know that the handsome man she had been staying in the same hotel room with was the coyote that would be crossing everyone over to the border. My dad actually did this for about 20 years. So I know it's not something to be really proud of, but it's just kind of funny. I don't know. It's just, it's just weird. The desert represented the extremities of hot and cold. It took them 3 days of walking in the desert to finally make it to the US. It was finally time to say goodbye to the handsome man. So she thanked him for everything and said goodbye. During those 3 days of walking and sleeping in the desert, um, they actually went down about 3 sizes in their waistline. Just that gives you a small glimpse of how hard it really is was, but now is even more. People don't just cross over to the border to get food stamps or to get on welfare. They're crossing because there is no other way to give your family what they need. It's not coming in and becoming freeloaders. I'm not saying not all of them are, but I'm saying not all of them are. And I feel like a lot of people underestimate why people come and why they cross the border the way that they do. Believe me, nobody would risk drowning and de- dying of dehydration in 117 degree in the desert if you were coming just to get free food stamps. 3 months had passed, and she kept having flashbacks of the hardships that they had all had in those freezing cold nights in the desert. One day, While she was cleaning, she answered the door, and to her surprise welcomed the handsome man into her small home. They began to go on walks and dinners, realized they had many things in common. 5 months later, they were married and had me close to their 1 year anniversary. My dad was sick. He too had cancer and passed when I was 4 months old. They lived a happy married life for the short year and a half. Reality hit when the bills started piling up. It was her and me, and at that age there wasn't much I could do to help. My mother had to work endless days and nights to make ends meet. We went through a lot of hardships, the two of us, sleeping in apple bins and grapevine made cribs, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Now reaching my dad's 27-year anniversary, I can't help but think of what if I hadn't been down to visit. I haven't been down to visit his grave in 10 years, but get to visit him this next month with my two boys. He's finally get to he's finally going to get to meet his grandsons. And so this was it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed.